Howdy, Space Rangers, Captain Phoenix here, and happy Star Wars Day, everyone. May the 4th be with you. Now, I know I'm a bit late to the party, 3 weeks late to be exact, but since it's Star Wars Day, I figured I would make this video anyway. So, I watched The Mandalorian Season 3, and after giving it some time to set in and think about it, I thought it was pretty good. And I think y'all are being way too mean to this season. Does it have its shortcomings? Yes, it does. It has quite a few of them. But is it the worst thing Disney Star Wars has made, or the biggest disappointment to ever exist? I really don't think so. Y'all are blowing this out of proportion. And I'm going to talk about it here. So, I'm going to talk about the general things about this season before I cover it episode by episode. So without further ado, let's get into it. Aside from Andor, this is the most cinematic looking live action Star Wars show. It is a huge step up from season 1 and 2. The first 2 seasons of the show felt very crammed and restricted, whereas with this one, it feels way more open. Even if that may not be the case, where some scenes are shot in a green screen, they still feel way bigger than the last 2. Space felt more real and alive. The different sets had a lot of detail and were nice to look at. Even the CG they use on certain aliens has greatly improved. Hell, I'm pretty sure they went on site to film some of the scenes with the covert. They looked that real. The action is also really good here. The ship battles are some of the best ship battles I've seen in any Star Wars stuff, especially the one in episode 3. I also really enjoyed the big character moments in this season. They all felt genuine and earned, especially in the last episode with Din, Bo, and Grogu. They all felt cathartic and earned. However, while I liked a lot of these things, let's also talk about the one thing everyone is complaining about is the pacing and structure of this season. And yeah, I kinda agree here. This season isn't the best when it comes to telling its story properly. Some scenes either move too slow or too fast for the story to keep up with. Not to mention some of the awful cliffhangers some of the episodes decide to end on. Not to mention, this season also does a lot of side questing. This can feel very fillery, and we see a lot of this happen in episode 3 and episode 6. Normally, I wouldn't complain about this if the side questing did have an end goal or a payoff at the end. However, considering we don't see Dr. Pershing again after season 3, and the Jack Black and Lizzo thing was kind of goofy in episode 6, it does make you feel that some crucial time was wasted. I mean, these are episodes that are supposed to have like movie quality, you know? Like a lot of money is being put into these series. That's why they're only like 8 episodes long. And so it kind of feels like a waste when that time isn't really used to stretch out the story, or not stretch out the story, but tell the story properly or give characters their proper moments, instead focusing on side quests like, again, Dr. Pershing getting his mind wiped. It doesn't help that there are also quite a few glaring inconsistencies, such as the Mandalorians being able to fly to space in the finale, yet not being able to catch up to a space dino. And that's not even mentioning the fight choreography of the Praetorian Guards, which just changed drastically in between episodes, all for the sake of manufacturing tension. Like, huh? What is going on here? And yeah, there is a weird writing of the characters such as Grogu, who don't really add much to the plot of this season, mostly because he wasn't supposed to be there, but you know. But enough with the being around the bush. Let's get into the nitty gritty by talking about the episodes themselves, starting with... Oh boy, this one felt like real Star Wars. There is so much I love about this season premiere. For example, we start off with this space crocodile sea beast thing, and it looks so freaking cool. What a great way to like introduce how the Mandalorians fight. I also love the strong sense of community the Mandalorians have, and how much they're willing to put on the line to save their own, especially their younglings. They really do care for each other. And of course, much like most fans, I do share in their grievances of having most of the story of this season wrapped up by the Book of Boba Fett when it didn't need to. We could have just had whatever was in Book of Boba Fett in this season and still have it end with the reclamation of Mandalore. It felt a bit weird, pacing and story-wise, to pull a move like that. Because people who only watch The Mandalorian will be confused why Grogu is suddenly back with Din. But, you know, it happened, it passed, there's not much we can do about it. Of course, we even have the pirates taking over the cantina, which leads to a great dogfight at the end of the episode. I love Dorian Shard, the Pirate King's design. That is just pure George Lucas alien look right there. And of course, I love Grief Karga in this episode. Grief Karga is a great character. I love him so much. Like in this scene where he's shooting down the pirates, where I like the act he puts on. He's like, "Oh, I've gone on too soft. Yeah, I'm not like the old days," and he just like shoots all of them. I also love how, because he's living that luxury life, he's just having two little droids carry his cape everywhere he goes. I wish they just kept up that gag for the rest of the season. That is actually funny and cool. Grief Karga is amazing. I love him so much. And yeah, Bo-Katan, despite having very limited screen time in this season, was also really great. I love how we get to see her castle. I didn't even like think of her having a castle based on like the other Star Wars shows we've seen her in, namely Rebels and Clone Wars, because you wouldn't think she has a castle, but she is Mandalorian royalty, so it makes sense. And I love how grand and great it feels, despite us only going down one hallway. And yes, it's become a joke at this point that she has that throne and she just sits on that throne 24/7. But like, let's be honest here, she's secretly a gamer. You don't have that awesome chair and you're not secretly a gamer. So yeah, anyways, really love this episode. A great season premiere, great start of the season, and lets you get hyped for what more is to come. And it also helps that the cinematography in this episode is really good as well. This one was really good. This was a really good episode. Now, I'ma admit, let me just be fully honest here. I really like this episode simply because it employs a concept I love to see in storytelling, and that is, I'm a sucker for survivors of an apocalyptic event walking through like a decrepit city, walking through the decrepit city that they once called home. And so I would really liked having Din and Bo-Katan, Din being the newcomer and basically the eyes for the audience, like he's a stand-in for the audience, and Bo being the survivor, who are just walking through the city, and Bo is kind of like telling them how great this place used to be way back when, and like how in 4 years it really just does look like a nuclear war happened. Yeah, which is what happened. It's just pure gold. I love that stuff in the episode. I will admit that the episode does drag a bit. Like, having to walk through the city twice was weird. I feel like if Bo had just agreed to come with Din and they walked through the city the first time around, getting to look at how decrepit it is, how it used to be this once amazing thing, now it's just kind of old and desolate, I think that would have been a lot better. Or maybe we could have gone through it twice, just a little bit better pacing. I don't know. I just don't think we needed to have a whole scene with Bo-Katan walking through the city if we already did it with Din and vice versa. If we just had one grand scope, I think that would have been a lot better. Or have them walk through the city and encounter a lot of monsters on the way. Either way, I really love that city. I really love that scene of Din walking on Mandalore, the planet his people worship a lot. And I really loved how we had Bo-Katan walking on it as well, as she gets to remember all her fond memories living here and how it all came to nothing when the Empire showed up. And I would be lying if I said I didn't love the dynamic between Bo-Katan and Din Djarin. The community seems to agree with me as well, so much so that they ship these two. Like, it is crazy. Like, at first I was a bit put off by it because of the age gap between them. Then I'm like, wait, she's only like 10 or so years older than him. But like, and when people realized that, they just went crazy on the shipping. It's nonsensical. Now they're like, oh my gosh, when is she gonna be adopted as Grogu's mom as well? It's insane. But hey, that's what good character writing will do for you. I also really like the Grievous bot in this episode. The Grievous inspired robot thing that captured Din. That's a really cool design right there. So yeah, I also really like how we had a nice introduction to the Mythosaur at the end of the episode when Bo sinks to the bottom to rescue Din. True, it doesn't really pay off that much later, so you could say it's a bit side questy, but given it was just a quick thing and we move on, it was nice. It's just, it completely failed at being a Chekhov's gun, is what I'm saying. The creature looks cool, it just did not have that much narrative purpose being there. So yeah, in my opinion, a really good episode. My only complaints is that it's kind of slow and that the pacing could have been a lot better, especially with the walking through Mandalore bits. And as I already mentioned, the failed Chekhov's gun with the Mythosaur. One of the best dogfights in all of Star Wars. And then the episode becomes confusing. On the one hand, I liked the Dr. Pershing stuff, and I truly felt bad for him when his mind got erased at the end. I also really liked the world building of this universe and more looks at Coruscant and Mandalorian culture by the end of it. On the other hand, though, while I do like Dr. Pershing, the fact that he doesn't show up again in the season, nor does his focus lead to anything special, it does make the episode feel a bit fillery and unnecessary. Maybe if they had focused on Elia Kane instead, and how Ark was trying to get Dr. Pershing caught, maybe it would have been better and more consequential going forward. As such, it just feels like wasted potential. Like, if it had focused more on Elia being, the actual focus of the episode instead of Pershing, seeing as she does come back in future episodes, I feel like it would have been way more rewarding, I would say, in the long run, rather than what we got. Also, the train scene. We did not need a train scene. That was like the most unnecessary scene in the entire season. What the frick was that? Also, can I just say what a waste it is not to have Thrawn behind Bo-Katan's bombing? Yeah, I know it was Gideon who orchestrated the whole thing, but the fact that they didn't confirm it in the episode is just insulting. Like, just some random Imperials attack them, and we don't get confirmation whether or not it's Gideon or Thrawn. I know they can't say it's Gideon because they don't confirm that he escaped custody until like 2 episodes later, and I know they can't say it's Thrawn because Thrawn is meant for Ahsoka. So like, what are we supposed to do here? Like, come on, guys, give us a bit of weight to this episode. But if there is one more positive I would give this episode, it's that I like how they showed us how incompetent the New Republic is. And I even made a couple of skits on my second channel, my comedy skits channel, kind of making fun of them. This isn't a bad thing by any means. I don't hate how incompetent the New Republic is. By all means, it makes sense canonically speaking, especially considering that this show is supposed to pave the road for the sequel trilogy and kind of explain some of the things that weren't explained in those movies. So I am fine with the New Republic being incompetent and not knowing how to stand on its 2 feet immediately after the fall of the Empire. But they really do make some questionable decisions. Like, how do you decommission your entire army after knowing full well that Imperial remnants still exist? Like, I know the Empire as an organization has fallen. It has been fallen since the Battle of Jakku. But, like, you do know that terrorists exist out there, right? How do you just decommission the entire Navy? What is that? Anyway, for what we got, it was a good episode. Just a bit of wasted potential. And yeah, you're going to be hearing that quite a bit in this video. That's another one of this season's problems, is that there was a lot of missed / wasted potential. But I'll touch on that as we go along. This one is also a lot of missed potential. I'll talk more about how I could have fixed this one towards the end of the video, but for now, let's just talk about what happened in the episode, in that there really isn't a lot to talk about. Like, a dinosaur kidnaps a kid, and Din and Bo and a couple other Mandalorians have to go chase after it. That's basically the episode. Also, I want you to keep in mind that in this episode, the Mandalorians' jetpacks run out of fuel, thus preventing them from catching up with the dinosaur. Keep this in mind because it will be important later. Anyway, Grogu stays behind and decides to have a cool flashback. We see how he escaped the Jedi Temple during Order 66. With the help of a Jedi, Kelleran Beck, played by Ahmed Best, the guy who used to play Jar Jar in the prequels. Can I just say that right now, we should all apologize to Kelleran Beck as a fan base. I wasn't one of the people who insulted Jar Jar. Hell, I was too young to watch Star Wars when the prequels came out. But I feel bad for this guy because the entire fan base just dogged on him for no reason. He was just playing a role. Y'all are crazy. So let's just apologize to Ahmed Best, starting there. Second off, with Kelleran Beck, I think this was a great introduction to the character in the series. I loved his dual blade fighting style, and I love how he actually went up against the clones. This was really good, because as far as I'm concerned, a lot of the things in this episode were practical. The clones and their armor were practical, as well as like the set of the Jedi Temple, and of course, Kelleran's lightsabers. Of course, they still use a green screen, like Coruscant background being a green screen, but like this is a huge step up, because in the prequels, all of the clones were basically CG, they were all copy-pasted with a computer. Here they actually got actors to be in the clone outfits, and I think that's really cool in my opinion. But overall, yeah, the flashback was really cool, and I hope we get to see more in Season 4. I hope we get more flashbacks, like maybe one per episode in Season 4, especially with how Kelleran and Grogu traveled the galaxy and eventually got separated before the events of Season 1. The episode ends with a scene literally ripped off from Jurassic World, and the covert adopts the baby pterodactyls. Overall, yeah, this episode was a miss, but I wouldn't call it bad by any means. Just more missed potential. Also, I really do like how Din and Paz kind of wrap up the rivalry between them. I don't know how long I think I will survive with that nonsense for the whole season. And we're back to peak Star Wars with this one. Honestly, they should just keep the pirates throughout the entire season. Clearly, that's what I enjoy. Anyway, I love the flow of this episode and the threat Gorian Shard represents. The action and editing in this episode is also really great. While the dogfight here isn't as good as the one in episode 3, it's still entertaining as all heck. It was so cool seeing so many Mandalorians working together to defeat an enemy. Something like this had never been seen before in Star Wars outside the animated stuff. God, why can't this show just be all action? Every time it focuses on the action, it's good. Also, bonus points if you know who this character is. Anyway, the episode ends with Bo-Katan getting a get out of helmet free card, which is great because we all need more Katie Sackhoff in this series. She is carrying this series on her back. Side. This was a great episode. More like this, please.
What the hell? Oh my God, no way.
Now, let me get this out of the way. This episode is bad. And no, it's not because of the celebrities. I don't know why people are acting like the celebrities are the worst part of this show when the celebrity... Wait a second. I don't know why people are acting like celebrities are the worst part of this show when celebrities and big names have been in Star Wars since day one, even without being attached to the Star Wars brand. Like, I will freely admit that Mando Season 3 has a lot of flaws, but the celebrities themselves are at the very bottom of that list.
Overall, any sort of celebrity takes me out of Star Wars as their fame overshadows their characters in the show. And this is one reason why George Lucas didn't put Michael Jackson in the prequel trilogy as Jar Jar Binks, because he felt that his stardom was just too powerful for the movie.
Like, this is not a new thing. For those complaining, just admit you hate these specific celebrities and move on. Though, how could you possibly hate Jack Black?
The couples couldn't keep me from you. Princess Peach at the end of the line. I'll make you mine. Oh, peaches, 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 peaches.
Anyway, this episode suffers from a goofy plot. I do not watch The Mandalorian for a Scooby-Doo style murder mystery. I watch it for ship battles, weird creatures, and Baby Yoda. At the very least, this murder mystery was better than the entirety of what Velma was trying to do.
Fred's a rich white guy with a tiny dong. He did it. Now...
But yeah, this episode was too goofy, even by Star Wars standards. Also, how does Mando know what the name of the droid bar is? I thought he hated all of them. Also, do all Ugnaughts know each other? How does he just mention Quill and they're like, oh yeah, we get you, man, we get you, we're helping you, we got your back. What the heck? Anyway, this episode also falls into the sad pitfall other TV shows do by having the entire thing be filler, but the last 5 minutes actually relate to the plot. So it's not technically filler, and it just looks worse off because of it. And Din's excuse for giving away the Darksaber is just dripping with depression. You could tell the writers wrote themselves into a corner with this one, and they clearly didn't want to have Din and Bo-Katan actually fight for it, so they're like... First of all, Grief Karga, bless his heart. Also, Grogu in an IG suit is literally every child with a new toy. I'm surprised he didn't break the yes/no button on the first day. Okay, but the plot. First of all, there's only one spy. The episode should have been called The Spy, not The Spies. Second, I love seeing Giancarlo back and his meeting room. The ray shields are just so cool. That's such a nice touch. And of course, his big flamboyant cape. Like, tell me you are a Vader fan without telling me you're a Vader fan. Anyway, the meeting with the other governors in the Shadow Council was also cool. And of course, obvious Thrawn tease is obvious.
that Grand Admiral Thrawn is missing from your delegation. Any word on when he will be able to participate in the Shadow Council?
The trip down to Mandalore was also really awesome. And hey look! Skinny Pete is in Star Wars, ladies and gentlemen. The scene with Bo-Katan telling the true story of how Mandalore fell and revealing her insecurities was definitely a very nice and heartfelt one. And of course, we have Din being like, I will fight by your side, you know. Loyalty and character is what should judge a person's character. I don't know what I'm saying. Another dinosaur. Another dinosaur. What is this season's obsession with dinosaurs? Don't run, it's a trap. Don't run, it's a trap. Don't run, it's a trap.
It's an ambush.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
Like, you know, guys, there is such a thing as too bloodthirsty. Paz, buddy, back up and close the door on them.
What are you doing? No.
Man, what a cool threat the Praetorians are. Surely the next episode wouldn't change their choreography to be goofy, right? Huh, would you look at that? An all-action episode. It's almost as if these are the good ones. Anyway, Din finally gets to remind us why this is his show, as he gets to just take out stormtroopers left and right without any weapons whatsoever. Heck, he even does these fights mostly solo. Also, can I just say, Grogu spraying him with the Bacta is just everything to me. That is too much adorableness. I think I'm gonna die from an overdose. Also, look at this nonsense. You're telling me you can fly to space with a jetpack but can't chase down a freaking pterodactyl? The armies rushing into each other with Bo holding the darksaber is the definition of action. Like, this is the kind of thing every studio wants to make, but they can't because audiences will hate it too soon. Oh, wow. You broke the darksaber. You better have a plan to properly follow up that storyline, otherwise you're gonna find a fan base in another war. Wow, this is kinda embarrassing. I get that you want to establish the stakes despite Grogu's plot armor, but these two entities just do not work in the same room together. The tag team here is beautiful though, and I do love the one with Din, Bo, and Grogu versus Gideon afterward. This seems familiar, but I just can't put my finger on it. If I had a nickel for every time Giancarlo Esposito's character died in a fiery crash, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. I do feel like there was some missed potential not having Ragnar mourn his father and taking up the Vizsla name proudly after him, but you know what, it is what it is. We got what we got. His pseudo-baptism was cool though. I both love and hate how the Mythosaur is vibing down there. Like, he's just chilling, having the time of his life, but like, he was set up at the beginning of the season and they did not bother to use him at all. Like, bruh. Also, Din Grogu's knighting.
You are now Din Grogu, Mandalorian apprentice.
I'm not crying. You're crying. Was emotional. Din is a father now. You're crying, not me. Also, wow, a finale with no cameos. Back to basics. And they all lived happily ever after. Never mind. Well, in that case, can't wait for season 4, the Beast season. Pterodactyls, Mythosaur, the giant Mandalorian Ankylosaurus. We going crazy, baby. I don't think they're gonna do that. Okay, so, final thoughts. What do I think of season 3 in general? For one, I think it's good. I think it's definitely a fun ride. This is some good old fun classic Star Wars. You don't have to think too hard about it. Just kick your feet up and relax. It's what we've gotten in the 2 previous seasons, except I feel a bit more mellowed out this time around, you know? Despite the stakes being higher, it doesn't feel that way. The cinematography in this season is also really good, especially in the first half. It just felt so big and vast, how Star Wars should feel. The action is also really good. I love the dogfights and I love the one-on-one battles. True, some of them are better than others. The Praetorian Guards one is really what threw me for a loop, but I can't say it was completely unexpected. As I mentioned before, the character development's also really nice. However, this season also has a lot of things dragging it down. For one, the number of inconsistencies, such as the jetpacks, and the very little proper build-up and payoff. Like, the payoff is good, it just didn't feel like the build-up was that great, mostly because we were spending so much time side questing. And that is another problem with this season. The structure, pacing, however you want to call it, but there was a lot of filler and unnecessary stuff. A lot of fluff that you could cut out that, yeah, is related to the main story, but not so much in a way. Again, it kind of felt like the focus was all over the place. For example, in the Dr. Pershing episode, what was stopping them from putting the focus on Elijah King instead of Dr. Pershing himself, you know? However, back to things I liked, this season did also do a lot of subversions. There were a lot of fan theories surrounding what might happen in this season, and this season completely squashed them. And I honestly hate to say it, but I enjoyed it. I mean, some of the ideas people had was that Gideon and the Armorer's helmet meant that they were related to Maul, that Gideon was a follower of Darth Maul or something, and that the Armorer was the second spy. Both of those didn't happen. Boba was expected to show up in this season, which, to be fair, he kind of needed to show up, seeing as how Din kind of hijacked his show, but he didn't show up at all, especially not for the finale, which a lot of people were hoping would happen. And again, a lot of people predicted someone in the group, namely the Armorer, would be the traitor. But that didn't happen, and so many people got pissed off that their fan theories didn't come true. I don't know. Let me just say it. And I don't know how to tell you guys this, but you need to hear this. TV shows and movies do not owe you confirmation on your theories, nor should they be obligated to. They give you the stories to theorize about, not the other way round. Accept what you've gotten and critique it for what it is. Don't complain that it wasn't what you envisioned. Alright, moving on from there. The biggest problem I would say with Mando Season 3 is its structure and pacing, and the fact that it was trying to cram too much story into this one season. I feel like they had a story in mind, but they were worried this story wouldn't stretch to 8 episodes. And as such, they came up with like these extra plot elements and threads to try and stretch it to 8 episodes. But instead, it kind of felt bloated to an extent, like they overdid it. So how would I improve this? Honestly, because I've been thinking about it, and there is a way to improve Season 3, a very simple way. And that is, just take out some of the fluff and organize your story better. Here's how I would fix The Mandalorian Season 3 in a very quick and easy way. For one, I would change episode 4 and 6 and kind of give them the same plot. Here's how I would change it. Episode 4 would be the pirate episode. That's where they fight the pirates and they move to Nevarro for a bit. Episode 5 would be looking for the other Mandalorians. I feel like Din, Bo, and Paz should go on this mission. Paz would be a great addition so that he and Din could squash their beef. Therefore, we don't need the space pterodactyl subplot. It's just Din, Paz, and Bo kind of bouncing off each other's characters as they go on this mission. While Grogu stays back and has his flashback with Kelleran. Boom, there you go, you got episode 5 figured out. Now, episode 6 would be episode 7. Change the concept of what episode 7 was to episode 6, where the Mandalorians now go to Mandalore to try and reclaim it, but they run into Gideon and they suffer a problem. The episode ends more or less the same way, with the Mandalorians suffering a defeat from Gideon and trying to figure out how to get around him. Episode 7, now the new episode 7, would be called the Mythosaur. This is where the Mandalorians, especially Bo-Katan, come up with the idea to use the Mythosaur to help reclaim Mandalore. As such, they go back to the Living Waters, and either Grogu or Bo-Katan or whoever tame the Mythosaur and they ride it in to defeat Gideon. My guess is most likely Grogu, since that's what the season ended with. And now they have the Mythosaur at their side and they're ready for a final battle with Moff Gideon and the Empire. Episode 8 would remain the same, except just add the Mythosaur into the mix. And boom, there you go. You have a fixed Season 3. It's structured well and it flows properly. And of course, the Dr. Pershing episode just put Elia as the main focus. Now you have an entire season that can flow well, and as such, we removed 2 annoying plot points that the audience didn't like: the space dinosaur and the Jack Black Lizzo plotline. boom, good to go. But with all that being said, at the end of the day, I still do think The Mandalorian Season 3 is good. It's better than Season 1, but doesn't nearly reach the highs of Season 2. And for all it's worth, it's fine. I do think all of you guys are being a bit too mean to it, because you're really overlooking a lot of the strengths this season does have, especially, again, in terms of the cinematography, the action, and the character moments, because those are genuine, and they are basically what make this show the way it is. This show is built on its characters, and the fact they can still get that right this late in the game, even while not focusing as much on Mando, is still something to applaud it for. But, different folks, different strokes, I guess. Anyways, see you in 2025 when Season 4 comes out, I guess, because Disney really likes to push these shows to go on for as long as possible. Anyways, guys, thank you so very much for watching. I have been Captain Phoenix. Be sure to like if you like, subscribe if you haven't already. I hope this video does come out by May 4th, otherwise my intro is hella weird. But without further ado, I will see you in another universe. Goodbye, my Rangers.